Alright, here's what I wanted to do. I'm really desperate to get the FTX Comet Truggy out for a run because I'm doing a review series, and some of you said, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes because it's such a cheap budget truck, but it actually looks fantastic. I can't go over that finish. It's so nice. So nice. Just considering the finish you used to get on FTXs, and even some of the more expensive ones that you currently still get, like the Outlaw, this is way better looking. But anyway, I'll be desperate to get this out, but I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that? It's a nice bright day outside, but the wind is howling. The ground's wet because it's been raining and stuff overnight and yesterday and things, but I can find some, tarmac that's been dried because of the wind and the heat and the sun. But the wind is absolutely howling. It's gusting really quite strong, and if there's one thing I hate when I'm filming, is wind noise. It just ruins videos, and I want to be able to do a really good video for you guys for when I come to review this properly. So I'm not going to do any filming outside today. I've got 2 batteries charged for two different RCs to make 2 different videos, and I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. Not doing it today because it would just ruin it. If there's one thing I hate as much as glitter, it's wind noise. Can't stand it. So unfortunately, the little FTX Comet will have to be run another day. So what I'm going to talk about today is this: my infamous Losi High Roller. Infamous for being the most unreliable RC I've ever owned, and having probably the most money spent at it, repair wise. I think my race cars have had more spent on them in total, but that's only in the pursuit of performance. This is just in pursuit of trying to make it work properly. But at the same time, I had some really good memories and some really good fun. And when this was running, it handled great for a monster truck, and it jumped really well. So it was really stable in the air, and had look at the travel and suspension here. Look at this. Just, yeah, really nice suspension travel, really nice shocks and everything on it. I was going to say I'll shock the camera, but never mind. There we are. So, yeah, really bonny looking truck. Obviously, this is not the original shell. This is the Traxxas Captain's Curse body shell, which is for Stampede, but I've fit it to the High Roller. It looks really good on the High Roller because it's got the sort of, High Roller has that sort of fake trellis chassis poking out from underneath it. And on the Stampede, this thing sits out like 6 stories in the air. This is much nicer looking. Anyway, yeah, this thing not only hasn't been run, but hasn't been in a state to be run for over 4 years, or around about 4 years. But just recently, over the last week or so, oh, that's the sun going away. I hope it doesn't ruin the picture for you guys. I have to keep changing the ISO on this thing. It's all new to me. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, hasn't been run for years and years. The gearbox. Oh my goodness! I mean, this truck, honestly, I can say very confidently, believe it or not, that this is the highest spec. It certainly was, when you include the electronics as well. But as a chassis and a rolling chassis, this is the highest spec Losi High Roller in the world. I can say that with absolute confidence. It's ridiculous what I had to do. Let me explain. The High Roller is weak as standard. It has as standard, the gearbox had some brass gears in it, some metal gears, and it had a plastic idler, and it had plastic gear diff with plastic planetary gears in it. The idler failed almost straight away for me when I first got it, so I ordered the Losi aluminium idler, which lasted for a little while, but not very long. Over the course of several years, I've tried various things. I tried to replace because obviously the gear diff had a combination of some plastic parts against the brass parts, and when you have plastic meshing with metal, it's always a problem. So that didn't really work very well. So I tried the ball diff upgrade that Losi sold, and it was just the crappiest ball bearing diff I've ever come across. The problem was outside the main diff gears, so you maybe call it a diff housing, I suppose, around the outside, although it's actually a gear itself, was metal, and the outdrives were metal, and the balls inside were metal. But there was the diff balls, I think there's 12 of them, were situated within a plastic, if you know what they look like, it's like a plastic plane, flat, with little square holes cut out of it, and in there the diff balls go. That was all plastic. So as the ball spun, even though it was full of grease and everything, I greased up, the plastic would melt, And obviously it's spinning in one direction mostly. You're mostly going forward, so it's going like that. The centrifugal force is forcing it one way. As the plastic heated up and melted, the balls of the ball diff were slowly migrating their way around, like that all the time, because they were moving, leaving trails of molten plastic behind them. And the thing very quickly, I was running it rushless as well, very quickly just melted into a mess. I mean, it was a mess, and you'd have to basically tighten the diff up to the point where it was essentially straight axle. And then when you did, it was gritty and grindy and horrible. And I must have went through, I don't know, 4 of them maybe more than that. And not too much running. And I didn't even have that much power going through it. It was a 2-cell system, E-tronics, 4,300 kV, not a huge amount of power. But it was just decimating it. So I decided to try and pursue a different avenue and make it geared. So over a long time, because Losi very quickly dropped this model any support for it, because it was a flop. You hear the wind howling, it's awful. Basically, I managed to find metal everything. I got the metal main diff gear. This is obviously talking about gear diff here. Metal planetary gears, metal pins. I managed to get a steel idler to replace the aluminium one. And then we were going to replace all the bearings. The bearings were quite crap as well. And I replaced them with bearings, operated bearings. But then when I got to the actual gearbox, the part numbers that were listed in the Losi manual, in the handbook, were for bearings that were a different size than what you needed. So they were wrong. So I got these bearings ordered according to the manual, and they didn't fit. So I actually had to get an engineering firm to make me bearings for the gearbox. I mean, I'm serious. It's ridiculous. So I got these really heavy-duty engineering firm ball bearings in there. The slipper clutch assembly failed, so I used a slipper clutch assembly from a Losi XXX SCT, which is much stronger, from the short course truck, which my one takes 3-cell, no problem. So it's got a XXX SCT slipper clutch assembly in there. It's got XXX SCT steel drive shafts, CV drive shafts, because the standard drive shafts failed on the standard motor with, I don't even know if it was lipo or nickel metal hydride power, but it was just the standard brush motor. The standard hex pins failed on the brush motor as well, standard motor. So the hex pins have been upgraded to, I think they're now running XXX SCT hex pins as well. I was running HPI ones. They've got the steel drive shafts. You've got all steel gearbox now. Every gear. I think maybe some of the intermediate gears between the idler and the diff might still be brass. I'm not sure. I can't remember. This has all been sealed now. I can't remember. I actually sealed it to try and stop the elements getting in, because the elements were getting in. Yeah, every single moving part in this entire drivetrain is now steel. Every single part. And then you've obviously got the XXX SCT upgrades, and then on the front I've got these arms are from some sort of 1/8. They were loose in team models. I'm not sure what model they were from, but they're from some sort of 1/8 truck or something. I threw everything at it. I'm sure I'm forgetting more, because there was lists of stuff. Basically, I threw everything at this truck. And the second last time I used it, it was all steel, but the actual gearbox housing, the plastic housing, split apart. And I think this is what caused the next failure, because obviously it split apart. I had to get new housing, but as the housing split, things could move around a little bit. And then at the end, the outdrives, one of the outdrives has got a long pin going through it into the other outdrive, so it goes right through the gearbox and keeps everything in line to stop the cogs moving around. That pin snapped the next time I used it, which was the last time I ever used it, because it was about £30 to get that replacement. And I thought, I'm just throwing money at this thing now. But I have done it now. Now the reason I brought this up is I have prepped this truck. It's now been rebuilt for the first time in 4 years, and I've prepped it for getting sold. Now it might go, why are you selling? You might think, oh, why are you selling this clearly flawed piece of junk truck? Now the gearbox is bulletproof. Now the gearbox is all steel. And I mean, I'm not going to say bulletproof to the point of let's chuck a powerful brushless system at it, because there's obviously something wrong with its design. And my guess is, although it's now all steel, the reason that pin failed is I think the tolerances aren't that good, so things are moving around just that little bit, and you know, with all the vibrations and clacking together, and I don't think it's great. So what I've done is I put it back to the standard, with the standard brushed Losi, what do they call it? LMK 32 or something, or LMK 30. It basically is a 12-turn brushed motor. That's the one that came with it. Actually, that's the one that came with my Triple X SCT, I think. It might not be the one that was with the High Roller, but with the same motor. Not that it matters. Got a standard speed controller back in here. The radio gear was terrible. The 27 megahertz radio gear that came with this had no range whatsoever. Just got a 2.4 gigahertz system. I don't know what happened to it. When I took the thing apart, I took the servo out because I had it on display as just a rolling chassis sort of shelfer thing. The servo's gone. I don't know what it is. I must have put it in another truck and sold it or whatever. So I've got a Altern USA brand new servo. I didn't want to put that brand new servo in there because it was for something else, but I needed a servo, and it's the only one that was compatible with the servo horn for this truck, so I've used that. So the thing is in really good condition now. It's ready to rock, and it's running a nickel metal hydride with the brush motor. There's not a huge amount of power there. It should still, you know, quite easily pop a wheelie and take jumps. And for, well, basically I'm going to advertise it and sell it as a perfect first time RC truck, an introduction to the RC world. Maybe someone wants to buy their little son, you know, 10-year-old or 7-year-old or something, a first RC truck. It won't be overly quick. It'll be quick enough. And I tell you what, compared to, you know, if your friends are all running around with Tamiyas, I mean, that doesn't really happen so much anymore. That was what happened back in the days. Is your friends, you'd all start off with silver canned powered Tamiyas that you built from a kit. This doesn't happen anymore because Tamiya kits cost more than the entry level trucks. So, but anyway, compared to entry level trucks, this has got more presence. It's got more stance. It certainly takes jumps and everything better. It's going to have more speed, but it's with the combination of this nickel metal hydride, which I'm selling with it, because it's the only I've got no use for it anymore. There's nothing I use nickel metal hydrides on really anymore. And the 12-ton brush motor should be okay. It should be okay. I'm going to give it a little blast now. It's been I've had a long time, and I didn't know what to do with it. But when I was going over the fleet update earlier on this year, somebody did suggest, why don't you just sell it? And I was like, you know what, why don't I just sell it? You're right, you are right, absolutely. So somebody can have good fun with this. Right, servo's plenty powerful enough, look at that. Someone can have a good time with this, and you know, make someone else smile and give someone else some good memories. And you know, it's now to the point where there's no way this brushed motor will do anything to this gearbox. No chance. It's all steel, for goodness sake. You can hear it's a bit. Got a few vibrations from the wheels are a bit wobbly wobbly. There's my phone going off again, sorry. But actually, at speed that's nice and quiet. That's really nice and quiet. So yeah, that's going to be absolutely fine for somebody. I'm going to advertise it on Gumtree, I think. Yeah, there we are. It's the end of an era, really. I've tried to, I mean, I've had pretty bad luck with my MT. I say bad luck, I've chosen poorly with my MTs. I mean, my first MT was a Maverick Strada, MT Evo it was called, wasn't a very good one. The Maverick Strada now is a lot better, but back then, it wasn't very good. And then I replaced it with this, and this was great for like the first few runs. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, because the way it cornered, the way it handled, the way it jumped, and you know, like we were running it with Matthew's one. I think Matthew had, I don't know if Matthew had his Ruckus by that point. It might have been a Step Up Striker. I think it was a Step Up Striker. And I remember one time we were jumping down some stairs, he jumped, and mine had more speed, and it leapt right over, landed on top of his, squashed it flat, and kept going. And it's just because it had so much more travel and more stance, it was so much cooler. But it didn't last very long, and obviously quite quickly you realise the weaknesses of this truck. Weaknesses which I hope have been completely addressed by this point. Because, you know, the rest of it's fine. You know, you've got a good bumper, it's got good shocks, it's got a good shock tower, it's nice and solid, big thick arms on it, long travel shocks and everything. The fundamentals, some of them are good and some of them are terrible, but hopefully the terrible ones have been addressed by this point. You know, even the shocks are threaded shock bodies with adjustable height and everything. I mean, it's pretty, at the end of the day it's a Losi. It wasn't cheap, you know, it wasn't like a budget branded thing, but it really had the design and the execution of a budget branded thing, which is why it was so disappointing. After this I got the jump shot. The jump shot was the jump shot. Yep, they fantastic everywhere apart from the gearbox, which was made of chocolate. worse than this in fact. The jump shot handled 1/2 battery before it failed. And then obviously now got the Proline Pro MT, which is a superb monster truck, finally, except it's discontinued and the parts don't exist anymore. So, yeah. Yeah. Then my hope is that this can have someone smiling away. Maybe, hopefully, sell it to someone who's thinking about coming into the hobby. In which case, this would be sort of a fantastic introduction to the hobby and make someone fall in love with the hobby. Because I think this is going to offer more fun than most other, entry level trucks. Would you not rather have? So if you offered something like an FDX Carnage, for example, for I think they're about 125, 130 pounds, really. Okay, it's 4-wheel drive, but rear-wheel drives are good at wheelies and drifting, skidding around. Or I might advertise this for, I don't know, as it sits, I don't know, £80 maybe, £75, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a better deal, isn't it? It's faster than a Carnage, I tell you that much. And I don't know what that is. I think my transmitter's getting low battery. But yes, that's all I want to say. Thanks very much for joining in. I'm sorry I haven't had any running. I'm going to run this. I actually am going to run this before I sell it. Just give it one test outside. And when it's dry, I don't want to get it all muddy and everything. Because it's already used, so it's not like I'm going to drop the value by having one last shot. I'll have one last shot for old time's sake. You guys will see what happens. And then it's gone. And then I can move on from it. And also, the wee FTX Comet needs a run as well. I'm just waiting on this weather improving. But, we're getting toward, we're getting later into the year as each day progresses, and hopefully the weather gets better. So there we are. High Roller back in one piece, finally. And hopefully it stays that way. Right guys, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully next time I see you, we'll get some running. Alright, take care. See you there.